All rise to the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please call the roll.
Councilman Alvarez.
Here.
Councilman Cullen.
Here.
Councilwoman Eckhart.
Here.
Councilwoman Hudak.
Here.
Supervisor Hay.
Here. Notations of exits in the front and the rear. Any electronic device, please put it on vibrate and make a motion to come out of executive session. We had discussion this evening about members to be appointed to the planning board and the ZBA. No decision was reached.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Next is a public hearing for Maplewood North subdivision. It's a 280A. So moved. I waive the reading of the public hearing notice.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Where's this one? No, this is the big one. I got, we're supposed to share.
Yes.
Okay.
Good evening. My name is Joe Bashinsky with Dibble Associates. With me is John Petrillo, an officer in the Maplewood North Group. Our proposal involves a property owned by Green Chimneys on the west side of Doansburg Road. It consists of...
Could you do us a, oh, we got a map, so we don't really need it, right?
No, it's
Okay,
for the public, so.
fine, go ahead, sorry.
The property consists of 39 acres. It's currently used by Green Chimneys for their agricultural activities. It's the barn on the left, just before you go over the East Branch River. The property is located in both the town of Patterson and the town of Southeast. The applicant is Maplewood North Group. They're proposing to acquire 2 building lots from the parcel. We'd like to create a 3.6 and a 7.6 acre parcel. They are actually in both towns also. The town of Southeast, the R160 zone, and in Patterson, the R4 open space overlay zone. Our application to the town board is for approval to allow access to the property by easement as opposed to having frontage as required on a town road. It's under the provision of what is commonly called the 280A of town law. We looked at the property, studied it for the alternative of extending a road. I should go back a little bit. We have a little bit of frontage on Bradford Court, which is one of the cul-de-sac roads in Maplewood North. We have 50 foot of frontage located on Bradford Court. We looked at the means of accessing the property with the planning board, and as opposed to extending the road and cul-de-sac into the property, we were able to demonstrate that there's much less disturbance, that we could serve these 2 lots with a common drive. And the proposal is to bring a common drive in from the cul-de-sac to serve lot number 1 in Southeast, and a drive up into Patterson to create a lot number 2 with their own individual driveway. The proposal that we have here will require the Same review by the town of Patterson, subdivision, 280A, as well as variances because of our lack of road frontage. Happy to answer any questions.
I have a question. The Section 288 of the town law speaks of allowing the issuance of building permits on roads that, on properties that are not serviced by town-maintained highways. Now, the lot that you're seeking to create and to have it accessed over an easement is actually in the town of Patterson, is it not?
Yes.
So the town of Southeast would not be issuing a permit to build a structure on that property at all.
Correct, it would be town of Patterson
Have you made application to the town of Patterson for this relief?
for subdivision. Yes.
And you're subdividing properties in the town of Patterson?
It would be creating a 7.6 acre lot
But it's
in
really,
the town of Patterson without frontage on any road, yes.
correct, so shouldn't that application be made to the town of Patterson rather than to the town of Southeast? Because we're not issuing the permit.
Well, you'd be issuing a permit for our lot 1 in southeast,
If that's got frontage,
but it's deficient under the R160.
that requires a variance.
That's an alternative, yes.
It's not an alternative, you're gonna require a variance.
As well as a 288.
I don't think 280A is really this town's province.
Okay.
If you look at the section of law, it speaks of issuing permits to build structures on lots not maintained by, that do not have frontage on town-maintained highways. And the lot which you'd be seeking the permit to build a structure is really in the town of Patterson. So you'd be asking the town of Patterson to allow a permit to be issued based upon an understanding that you would be able to get access to a municipally maintained road through lands in the town of Southeast. But I don't think a 280A is a proper, unless you were creating another lot in the town of Southeast that did not have frontage. That's my interpretation, my view of how that law works. So in your applying to the town of Patterson, you should also be applying to the town of Patterson for a 280A waiver.
Correct.
And I don't think that that's the appropriate relief here but the creation of that lot in the town of Southeast, if it's deficient in frontage, doesn't necessarily mean it's not a, as we call them, pre-existing non-conforming lots, but in order to get a building permit on that lot, you'd most likely need a variance from the frontage requirement, because you've got a sufficient amount of area, I assume,
Yes.
width and all the other necessary things. I think that the appropriate approach would be to get a variance for the frontage, get your building permit, go to town of Patterson and get them to issue a 280A.
Then would we be referred to the ZBA?
Well, you know, how you get to the ZBA is you make an application for a building permit on that lot that's currently existing, is it not?
No, we're creating.
You're creating a lot in Southeast?
Yes.
Then the planning board would make that.
Okay, well,
Have
we've
you-
been there.
Well, they should be referring you to the ZBA for review of that lot. But I really, I'm sorry I didn't focus on this earlier, because I think, in essence, your relief for 280A is really in the town of Patterson, not in the town of Southeast.
I understand your logic on that.
Okay. I take it you're gonna be making application to the planning board and to Patterson.
Yes. Yes, we'll pursue the variance for sufficient frontage in southeast and the various approvals that Patterson needs.
If I could just, I brought it up last time you guys came forward. There has to be some sort of agreement or with the garbage pickup. That, you know, I have concern of that whoever lives in the Patterson house is just going to be bringing their garbage out and expecting the southeast district to pick it up. We had an issue on another road where part of the road was in Connecticut, part of the road was in New York. The Connecticut people for quite some time were just getting their garbage picked up for free, which isn't fair to the Carter, because the Carter wasn't aware that these homes were in Connecticut. They weren't paying for the service. So I don't know how that's going to be resolved, but that's something that should be investigated, because we can't, right, we couldn't make that house in Patterson part of the
No,
district.
you could not.
Right, so
Whatever
unless
gets-
Patterson's willing to come around and pick up the garbage, but it seems pretty much out of the way for one house, but,
I think they were gonna collect it on their end of the taxes and then pay the town of Southeast.
was that the, okay. We just need to get an agreement on that, I guess.
Could that be done, Lou? Actually, if they do that, John, the best thing to do personally is for Patterson collects it and then pays the Carter AAA, who is our current Carter, and whoever the town Carter is at the time of the contract each year that they do that, and then possibly just provide us with proof of payment. That'd be about the best thing to do. You couldn't pay us truly directly because it's not part of the district. That's ways down the road. Now, let me ask you a question of someone. Could you possibly be denied a variance, but would you still take the lot in Patterson? I don't know, you know, again, not knowing how the ZBA will look at that. So you, say you were denied, would you still go through with the parcel in Patterson? No, don't answer now. Think of it in the future.
Couldn't answer that.
Okay. I think your best bet would probably be go to the town of Southeast first, and depending, you discuss how you want to do it, but
In your application to the town of Southeast Planning Board, is that for a subdivision of certain lands within the town of Southeast?
Yes.
Okay. And so that property that has the 50-foot frontage on Bradford Court is part of a larger lot?
Yes.
So
Part of,
by subdividing it, are you making the frontage, the existing frontage, any less?
no,
Okay. Because that would be a problem, is what I'm trying to point
Well, I know this is a public hearing. I don't know at this point. I would assume that since it is a public hearing, should we elicit some public comment, or is
out. You
this?
certainly can. I
Yes.
mean, I feel that the 280A application is really not properly laid before the town of Southeast. But if they, you know, it was a notice public hearing. If they wish to take public comment, they're certainly more than welcome to.
Tony?
it's open to the public. Anyone from the public wish to speak to this? Seeing none, at this point in time, we'll have it close it and then let them do whatever applications they need to make.
Yeah, well, that's fine.
Okay. I'll make a
Wouldn't be
motion,
taking
that-
any action anyway.
I'll make the motion to close the public hearing, seeing there's no public input.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Next is a work session for Brewster Honda. It's an architectural review board referral. Anyone here from Brewster Honda?
Good evening. Richard O'Rourke from Keenan Bean on behalf of Leo Motors of Albany, Brewster Honda. Everything that occurs with respect to these buildings goes through corporate Honda, and it's not as bad as what McDonald's used to be like with the Golden Arches, but nevertheless, it is necessary for final plans to be approved through Brewster Honda. The result of that was that there were some minor changes to the already approved plans from the Architectural Review Board. And with that, word was received that there had to be some modifications. So that then triggered the necessity of going back. And so Tim Allen from Bibbo Associates could take you through the modest changes, which in many respects actually incorporates some suggestions that I think were first suggested by the neighbors. So, Tim?
Real quick. We went back to the ARB with this plan. You recall the only real change to this plan from graphically, there was a large arch in the front of the blue Honda. We went back to the ARB with this plan. They had some modifications. They wanted this side of the building softened. We accomplished that through this revised plan. Essentially, the plan was very similar to what was approved. We had a lot more light and windows on the front side, which the ARB had concerns about before. That's been lessened a little bit. We've gone through the ARB twice. The first building that we had before them, they took some exception to, particularly on this side, and softening the right side of the building towards the neighbors. But essentially, the ARB really liked this plan in coming forward, and they approved it and recommended it to your board. So these are really the major changes. Everything, actually, lighting from the property is now less. The plan actually is much more, is a little better than what we had before in terms of what we were neighbor-wise, and the building's actually a little smaller than what we had been before this board previously.
Can I ask a quick question? I just wasn't clear, and I was at the ARB meeting, and they definitely like this plan a lot more. But you don't mean there haven't been changes since that meeting, correct?
No.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that it was, okay, because I was a little confused.
The site plan remains the same.
Yep.
Okay. And the same with whatever the ARB approved is what we're seeing now, correct?
Correct.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure, thank you.
Anything else on the board? I mean, we've seen this a few times, and we're here for modification. Looks fine.
Okay.
A few hundred.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next is the Baker Farm subdivision. It's a 280A as well. Is this in Southeast or Patterson?
Or Carmel.
This is all
Almost Carmel,
Almost Carmel.
almost Carmel.
Good evening, I'm Paul Lynch from Putnam Engineering. The project is located up on Enoch Crosby Road. It's a 32.8 acre site. We're subdividing it into 4 lots, the smallest lot being roughly 4 acres, the largest lot being 16.8 acres. There's going to be a common driveway that services all 4 lots, which runs up off of Enoch Crosby Road. And it's basically a 1,000-foot long road that gives us the access to the bulk of our property. And that's why we're here at the 280A.
The common drive, is it going to be served by a homeowners association? How's that going to work?
It's either going to be a homeowners, I believe it's going to be a homeowners association. They'll have the maintenance that all 4 share in.
Because we've been having issues coming forward that with people with common driveways and private roads and, maintaining it. So that's something, hopefully could be taken care of now.
Yes, this would be private, that would always remain private.
Well, that's what they
We
all
heard
say.
that, yeah, exactly.
It's
No, I know.
Just build it to town spec, you might have. Okay, unfortunately, you know what, I didn't get a set of these plans.
Here.
I should
They're
have.
right here. You just gave
Is
them.
that the one?
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, okay.
Here,
You see
Nice
the
one.
bottom of the green one, that long,
yes.
right, so it goes up, is that the one? Okay.
Yeah, Baker.
Yeah. but this
So you
is
go
pretty-
up
yeah.
to the cul-de-sac, and that serves, so the maintenance is from the bottom to the cul-de-sac itself, and that feeds off to that one, that one, that one?
Each one.
Okay. How
And they would
long
have,
is
they
it?
would have a common driveway maintenance agreement, which would, you know, if they don't end up doing a homeowners association or a CPS 7, they would have to have an agreement, a recorded document that, whereby the owners of those lots would know that they have requirements that they maintain the property, the common driveway.
Okay.
Yes, that's correct.
And the dark spot up there in the top left-hand corner where the parcel meets, is that, what is that, the gray area?
This up here?
Yes, what is that
Those are
gray?
just steep slopes.
No, the heavy gray, is that steep slopes? It almost looks like it's water from here, but
No.
it's
Yeah.
steep slopes?
That's all steep slopes.
Okay. Have they all been perked out? Are they all Board of Health approved?
They've all been perked out, they've been witnessed by the city and also the health department, yes.
Okay.
This one's been around a long time. Question, was underneath, there was a purchase made, it's smaller than it was by a homeowner, is that, can you just show me where, if that's what I thought it was, okay. Okay,
Yeah, there's that strip that's gonna go to Azzaretti.
right,
And then as part of the filing of the map, there's a strip of land that goes to the cross. Very narrow, so like a 5-foot wide strip.
right.
But that's because, you know, the driveway was in that area. It was just easier to give the land than to do anything else.
Okay.
And does that property abut the Cromwell town line? Is that the town line or no?
Behind?
Behind?
No.
No.
Southeast.
I believe the town line does run on
Right.
that property line.
But on the, up top, that's.
No, that's southeast.
That's still south,
That's
yeah.
Ivy Hill and up in there.
Okay,
So.
okay.
Anyone else on the board? Anyone from the public? Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, make a motion to go to the regular portion of the meeting.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Waive the reading of the correspondence. Approval of the voucher list for $683,533.98. So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
3, setting meeting dates and public hearings. All meetings will be held at 1360 Route 22, Brewster, New York, at 7 p.m. unless otherwise noted. Thursday, January 8th, 2015 will be the organizational. Thursday, January 22nd, 2015. It will set a public hearing for the rezoning and zoning text change local laws for Crossroads 312 for 7 p.m. Thursday, January 22nd. Oop, 2015, that should be, I'm sorry about that. Going back in time by 1,000 years, I like that.
I don't think we could make it.
Move for discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Waive the reading of the budget transfers. Resolution for outside storage. Resolved that the town board of the town of Southeast hereby adopts local law number 3 of 2014 pursuant to municipal home rule law to amend chapter 138 of the town code zoning to amend the definitions pertaining to outside storage as an accessory use in commercial districts and to modify the bulk requirements and regulations relating to the outside storage use within the town. And be it further resolved that the town clerk be and hereby is authorized and directed to, A, enter said local law in the minutes of the meeting and in the code book of the town of Southeast, and B, give due notice of the adoption of said local law by filing such with the Secretary of State of New York within the time required by law. So moved for discussion.
Second?
Discussion. I'd like to thank the board for doing this. I think it's correcting an injustice was done some time back, and at this point in time, it looks like the people out in Route 6 that have these warehouses and things like that can now finally get some tenants. All in favor?
Aye.
Number 6, it's a special permit request for WB New York LLC. Resolved that the town board of the town of Southeast hereby makes the following findings of fact in connection with the instant application. 1, the proposed use is in such location and is a size and character that it will be in harmony with the appropriate and orderly development in the surrounding district and will not be detrimental to the immediate site or adjacent properties. The location and size of the proposed use, the nature and intensity of operations involved in or conducted in connection herewith or therewith, Its site locations and its relation to access streets will be such that both pedestrian and vehicular traffic to and from the use and the assembly of persons in connection therewith will not be hazardous, provided the conditions set forth herein are incorporated in any final approval. 3, the exterior appearance of the proposed structures will not hinder or discourage the development and use of adjacent land and buildings. And 4, the proposed use will not require such additional public facilities or services or create fiscal burdens upon the town greater than those which characterizes use permitted as of right. And be further resolved that based upon the foregoing findings, the town board of the town of Southeast hereby grants a special use permit to WB New York LLC in connection with the subject premises in accordance with statement of use prepared and submitted to the planning board in connection with the project development plan application and incorporated herein by reference on the following conditions. 1, the applicant shall operate the facility in compliance with all conditions set forth in Article 10 of the zoning code. And 2, all signs or advertising in connection with the subject enterprise shall comply with the provision of the zoning code. 3, in an effort to mitigate any adverse impact of the project may have on pedestrian and vehicular traffic in the vicinity, any final approval by the planning board shall contain a condition that the applicant shall construct a sidewalk along Independent Way connected the subject premises to the existing parking facilities adjacent to the Metro North facilities located at the end of Independent Way. No certificate of occupancy or certificate of compliance shall be issued for the proposed development unless until such sidewalk facilities are constructed and approved by the town's consultant engineer. 4, the planning board shall employ the advice of its engineering and design professionals to mitigate any adverse drainage or sheet flow of storm water which may be exacerbated by impervious surfaces and improvements being proposed, and incorporate same into any final approval of foregoing project development and plan application. And be further resolved that the town clerk is hereby authorized and directed to forward a certified copy of this resolution to the owner of the subject premises and to the Secretary of State. And, yeah, you have to add that to it as
No,
well.
Secretary of the Town of Southeast Planning Board.
Yeah?
That's what it says, right?
Okay. I have a correction here. Okay, Southeast, so Secretary of the Town of Southeast Planning Board. So moved on behalf of the town board.
I'll second for discussion.
Discussion.
I'm happy, obviously, that this, the planning board recognized and that this was put in, that the sidewalk will be installed before there's any certificate of compliance or occupancy. My other concern is, who takes care, does that burden then of taking care of the sidewalk, shoveling, repairs, does that then fall to the town?
No, it should not.
Do we have to, where would that be made explicit?
I think as part of our code,
Is it?
anywhere there's a sidewalk, it's the responsibility of the adjoining landowner to maintain that sidewalk. That's generally accepted practice in the, and if it's a if municipality owns the adjoining land, then of course it would devolve to the municipality.
So, and I'm not sure of this, and I should be, but I'm not, but I don't believe that the applicant or I don't think they own all the land that abuts, that will
I
abut.
don't know that they do or don't. I'm not sure.
So if there's vacant land, which I think there is, and we can find out, what are the odds that they're going to take care of that sidewalk? Or, I mean, how do we make this enforceable? Because I don't want future town boards or our town board to be getting complaints about icy sidewalks or unshoveled sidewalks or walking in the road under bad conditions because
For
the
this
sidewalk
specific
isn't shoveled.
site, we're talking specifically this, correct?
Yes, I am.
Well, one would be enforced by the zoning officer of town of Southeast, which,
If there is non-compliance, it would be something that our code enforcement officers would issue violation notices for.
So you're certain that this would be applicable, the fact that the sidewalks would have to be cleaned by I just would want to make certain that the code was.
It's the requirement of an adjacent landowner. there's nothing to say that the planning board couldn't condition approval of this site plan on the understanding that the owner of this facility provide or to assure that those sidewalks are kept clear.
I think what we have to think of is what's practical, and if there is, and I believe there is a vacant parcel in between, we could ticket them until we're blue in the face, but if it's not shoveled, if it's not taken care of, we're just going to have a chronic enforcement problem and issue, and a dangerous issue too. So I don't know how the rest of the board feels about this, but
Well, the danger, of course, would be that also the responsibility of the adjoining landowner who failed to clear it. So, and not so much the municipality. So I'm not as concerned about that as I am about making sure that there is somebody in place that would knowingly, clear those sidewalks. But just because it's a vacant piece of land doesn't mean that.
oh, I know it's owned. I just, it's not someone who's there who's going to be able to, if it's someone who doesn't live there, obviously, it's a lot more problematic. But
Jeff, had you taken that into consideration?
Yeah, I just want to clarify the location of the sidewalk with respect to our property. Our sidewalk actually starts up at our little waiting facility where we'll have a jitney bus. The sidewalk extends down our driveway all the way along our frontage to the Metro North Station. So all of the frontage which the sidewalk runs along is our frontage, thereby the law would obligate us to do it.
Okay.
That's number one. Number two, we're going to have an extensive snow removal maintenance obligation for the entire facility, and we have no problem complying with A, the law that's on the books, and B, our obligation to keep it open. So just for clarity, though, we do own all the frontage along the sidewalk, so that would obligate us.
Okay.
Now, Jeff, at the very end down here on the bottom right, where does the sidewalk actually end? So you go, is that piece there?
That ends right in the proximity of the pay station at the end of Independent Way. You know, there's a pay station right there on the left.
Okay, so that's where the MTA lot is?
Correct. It ends at the MTA lot.
Okay,
it
so the
feeds
question
directly
is,
in.
there's going to be a stretch there. When you plan to do that, are you going to be doing that portion of the MTA? Are you going to stop at yours?
The last several feet don't front on our property, but are in the town's right-of-way, to my knowledge. The town has the right-of-way associated with Independent Way, and that's where the sidewalk is located. As soon as it leaves our property here, it's within the Independent Way right-of-way.
Okay, my question is, you're going to do your part, and I'm not sure what the MTA is going to do.
Well, we're going to maintain,
You're gonna maintain-
Our property ends here, so you're talking about 40 feet of sidewalk that's not in front of us, so we have no problem maintaining that.
I'm
That's
not going to ask you to maintain, but the bottom line, the question that you're asking is, if they do their part, how do we make the MTA do their part? That's the
Right.
tougher question. We
Yeah,
can probably
we'll just-
enforce theirs, not theirs.
Yeah, we fully plan on maintaining it, and it is within the town's right-of-way, so I believe we have the rights to go there and do what we have to do to maintain it.
Don't want liability on it. I don't want liability.
Sir, just, if you would just come up to the mic.
On the MTA.
Jeff, could you repeat that so the public can hear what he said?
Yeah, Mr. Levy, who's representing the owner, stated that he doesn't want liability with the...
I don't want liability for clearing something that happens on MTA property.
Right.
And I understand that, and it makes perfect sense to me. I'm concerned because for safety reasons, obviously, about that 40 feet, which I understand it's not your obligation, but I am concerned, that's
So
all.
the first ticket we write will be to the MTA, okay?
That's the MTA's obligation right now.
I don't think there's
Well,
a
they
sidewalk
show-
currently there.
Well, near the pay station and stuff there is.
Well, that's.
Right, I know, down.
Okay, any other comment? All in favor, or roll call vote?
Roll call,
Oh,
please.
Roll call?
Councilman Alvarez.
Yes.
Councilman Cullen.
Yes.
Councilwoman Eckhart.
I still have reservations about this project, so I'm going to vote no on this.
Councilwoman Hudak.
Yes.
Supervisor Hay.
Yes. Okay, next is to adopt the finding statement for Crossroads Street 12. It's a lengthy document. It's approximately 23 pages long, so I'm not going to begin to read it. I'm not going to ask anyone else to, because you'll probably die trying to read it. So what I'm going to do now is pass out to each of you We had a last-minute revision by the applicant. It was handwritten, I'll pass these down to you. Now, what I'm going to do is enter into the record this evening, revised, R number 7 revised, and the only revision from what you have in your package is this piece of paper with that correction, okay? So with that, I'll hand this to the town clerk. So this is revised, this is included in this.
Okay,
Their package that they have will add this.
okay.
This is what we'll post on the net. Okay?
Before we start, open for discussion and let Ashley.
There were two other minor revisions. There was a correction of a typo in the table.
Was it part of this?
It was in the same email where you received the handwritten comments. There was an attachment that had a PDF of the full document with the typo corrected, as well as.
Okay, do you?
They found your typo?
I found my typo.
Because you were always finding their typo, so.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll tell you what we're going to do then. So the revised one that you sent to me,
Yes.
does that include that change?
Yes, it
Which
includes the
change?
revisions of the
Well,
application.
this change.
change.
This change, as well as the one that she's identifying here. You want to identify that now, quickly, just so they know?
She sent it in an email.
I know,
okay.
but I don't have it here for
Oh,
the record this evening, so let her enter it for the record. But the official document that's going to be posted that this board will possibly approve this evening will be revised number 7, which includes this and what you're speaking of now.
So in the table, the stormwater under FEIS is corrected, the spelling. And then also there was, the second change was, I'm not bringing a red line version,
Well, if it's included,
so. It was included.
okay. It's included in the official one that we're approving this evening, or disapproving, whatever, will be there.
And Ashley, could you, I'm sorry, what was in the table? I didn't get that.
Stormwater was misspelled.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Again, it was lengthy. Basically, this is the way I would suggest we consider doing it this evening. We'll all make whatever comment to it. When this comes in front of the board, what I'm doing this evening, I'm not going to repeat in the future because tonight's really the vote, the fact-finding of the document itself. So prior to any board member speaking, usually we start on this end. Do you have a different, how we want to start this evening, this discussion?
Well, I first want to know, to what extent is there any necessity of reading the entire statement? I want to just know whether that is necessary.
Not legally, no.
Pardon?
Not legally, no.
Okay.
I mean,
That's
you
fine.
have-
We've had it posted on the web. I mean, it is 23 pages long.
I just wanted to know whether that's fine.
Okay,
If that's okay,
it
then,
appears to be.
so then how, so right now, what the suggestion is that each board member will make comments on the, adopting the final FEI, gotcha, the finding statement. Okay.
Would you like to start?
No, let Edwin start.
Could I
Edwin.
make a recommendation that someone
Yes.
move the
Yes,
the
I was
document for
wondering, yeah,
adoption?
Okay.
And then second it for discussion?
Didn't we? Okay, I didn't do that yet?
No.
Okay. Okay, so the document I'm moving is the revised number 7 this evening, along with the modification, but the revised number 7 includes those modifications that were forwarded. And they'll be posted on the web tomorrow. Edwin?
I just wanted to start by thanking Ashley. At the last meeting, we deemed the FEIS complete. Once I got all the revisions that you made to it, I literally went through each and every page, making sure that every single comma and everything you circled was definitely incorporated in there. So I just wanted to say thank you for that. I just want to make a general statement. At the last meeting, again, there were a lot of comments being made that basically, at least that I felt that I had not read the document. So I just wanted to be crystal clear on the fact that I have indeed read the document, and although I rely on the skill set and the knowledge of our consultants for the record, again, I read everything. I'm in agreement with the FEIS and the finding statements and have drawn independent conclusions regarding to the quality and quantity of the environmental review material presented to me. In addition to that, I've also heard a lot of back and forth about that we're fast-tracking this project. This project has been on the town board's radar since 2009, for 5 years now. There's no way that this has been fast-tracked at all. To borrow Ashley's words, it's taken a life of its own, some the fault of the applicant, some of the fault probably of the town board, whatever it may be. It's taken 5 years to get here. It's just taken a life of its own. It's done its own due course. And I just wanted to, I don't feel that it's been fast-tracked in any way. Even after tonight, we're still discussing having public hearings, which still to vote on the zone change. In addition to that, then, if it was to pass muster, we'd still have to continue on site plan approval and everything else. There's a long road ahead of us. Thank you.
Mr. Cohen?
You don't want to go?
Well, alphabetical order.
Oh. Okay. No, it's fine. I mean, Edwin kind of said everything that I was going to say. This has been going on for a long time, since 2009. It's been looked at. I know there is some confusion, or some people, as Edwin says, feel that we're just wash their hands of it, the town board, and, you know, we just let the consultants do what they have to do, and we're just signing off on it. That's not true. I also read everything. I mean, it was overwhelming, the books and different chapters, and it kept changing. I'm not an engineer. I'm not a traffic consultant. I'm not a wetlands consultant. So obviously our consultants, what they say is important to us. I think the concerns with traffic was dealt with different traffic lights going forward, improvements to the road. And I agree with the environmental findings.
Ms. Eckhart?
Well, I understand that the majority of the board does feel the FEIS is complete, and so the majority does rule. I don't believe that this, I won't be voting for this tonight. I don't believe the finding statement, it sounds like the voice of the town board. I know it can't be back and forth. I know it, I understand the rules, but it just seems more like the applicant's take on things than the town board. I would like to go over a few things. I'll try to be as brief as possible. Certain areas I'm not going to touch on because I believe Supervisor Hay has studied them much more than I have, and I'll defer to him certainly on traffic. I would like to talk about the proposed, and I guess it's going to be easiest if I read this, but one consideration for me is, and it's confusing that this plan, Crossroads, is consistent with the 2002 and the 2000 comprehensive plan and the 2014 update. I don't believe that is true. I know that it's written that this could be a node for commercial development, but that's only part of it. In the comprehensive draft, which I have here, and I'll read this. It says the 2002 comprehensive plan evaluated the development potential of vacant parcels of land in the town. In response to concerns about overdevelopment and the loss of significant gateway or open space parcels, the town rezoned a number of parcels to rural commercial. Gateway commercial or otherwise reduce the development potential of the parcels. The plan specifically identified the following large agricultural or vacant parcels as being along gateways to the town on land notable for its scenic qualities and rural character. One was the land along either side of Route 312 between Route 6 and Pugsley Road, and the other, number two, is the land along either side of Route 312 between I-84 and the railroad tracks. So to me, that clearly stated in the original comprehensive plan in 2002 and the update that there was good reason for adopting the rural commercial zone for this particular parcel. Ashley was kind enough to put this back into the FEIS. I think it's really important. Certainly everyone's entitled to their own opinion, but I don't think this is cut and dried at all. The other thing that I really think is important is in the finding statement. It says the town board recognizes there is significant concern among residents of adjacent and nearby neighborhoods of the potential visual and community character impacts of the proposed project. As part of the DEIS and FEIS, the applicant was required to analyze the potential visual impacts of the proposed project. The analysis demonstrated that the proposed project would be visible from the North Brewster Road neighborhood. It cites what illustrations. But from most locations, the view would be buffered by existing trees, and proposed buildings would be at a slightly lower lower elevation, than the North Brewster neighborhood. The one thing that I think is really key here as we proceed is we can ask, and we should be asking for a 3D model, so which, especially as part of Ridgeline. I want to see one. I think the residents are entitled to see one, and I think it would be extremely helpful in this case because that is a real bone of contention along with the traffic. Under community services, as a hotel, retail, and commercial operation, the proposed development would generate minimal direct expenses to the town of Southeast. I disagree. I believe our secondary roads are suffering as it is. I think they'll be used greatly, a lot more if this project goes in. And we have about $12 million worth of road improvements and infrastructure to make in this town. We don't have the money to do that. I think this just exacerbates an already difficult problem. So I don't consider that minimal. And also, it says the project would be served by a private water supply and private wastewater treatment systems and thus not require any connections to existing municipal infrastructure. This is absolutely the case, but again, I'm concerned for future town boards because the town has been involved in litigation on rate setting. So that's theing in future I would love to avoid. It was very tough for this town board. It's not our area of expertise. There also, it talks about, and I won't go into the financials, I think Supervisor Hay will do a better job, but what I don't like is when I see that this plan will result in significant economic benefits to the town, county, state, and school districts. I know it's significant in relation to what we're presently getting, but it's not significant when you consider that our budget without special districts is $10 million. I don't think $153,000 is significant. I don't think $1.4 million plus is significant when you take into account for the schools that it's an $85 million budget. I hardly think it matters in the grand scheme of things for New York State. I do think it is significant for the county, so I would agree with that. There will be an existing buffer of trees. This is under visual resources. That is, I applaud that. I'm happy that that's in there. My concern, again, is the future. If it sells, it's much harder once trees are gone, if they're cut down, and this is something that the present owner can't control, and I understand that. But tree trimming, people make mistakes, take things down that shouldn't be taken down, so I do have concerns about the visual impact as far as that goes. There again, a 3D model would be extremely helpful on that. I also think on sewer, what we need to be careful of in the future for the, it seems right now that this project will fit in and does have enough capacity. But what I think this town is going to see as the market changes and life changes is that formerly approved subdivisions that were senior housing may move to become not senior. And I know that it will use more septic and more water, and I do have concerns about that. It's important that we do have a trigger so that when development changes, as it did with Town Center, and DEP then had to come in and approve larger wastewater capacity. So I think the town really needs to be careful on that as well. We have to, there's a lot of vigilance that needs to be done when if we approve a project this large, and I think that's really, really important. I think basically that, I think it is, for me, it's very hard to argue that when I hear things like unique shopping, or it will offer a lot more, certainly it will offer jobs. I'm not sure they're living wage jobs. I know any job can be helpful, but that's not convincing to me. When I hear about a unique shopping experience, we don't know that. We don't know what's going to go in there, if it's another nail salon or a liquor store. And I know that there are merchants in the Highlands that are concerned that it'll be redundant. That's not for us to say, but I think it makes it very difficult to claim that it is going to be unique or offer us something new, because we just don't know that. So overall, I'm uncomfortable with, obviously, with this document. I do thank Ashley for her hard work and for her patience in having me ask a lot of questions. But I am not convinced that this is beneficial to the town as it stands. Where I do think it would be beneficial, and I would like to end on a more positive note, is unfortunately the finances don't work, but I would say I would be very happy with a top-notch hotel and a conference center. I think that's something we do need. I would love if we became a destination. I think what's really remarkable is that this is at the crossroads, as it's named, of Metro North, 84, 684. I think that's such a unique position. I think actually the land is pretty dramatic and very nice. And I would, I'm sorry that the economics don't work, but my job is not to assure profitability for an applicant. So tonight I will be voting no on this funding statement. Thank you.
Liz?
Okay, I want to preface my statements by saying there's been a couple or a few emails questioning whether I have abdicated my responsibility to make determinations to the consultants. I believe that anyone who follows the town board or has followed the town board since I've been here knows that I do not abdicate my responsibility to anyone. And anyone who thinks that should have come up to me privately and said it, or at least said it to my face. But that being said, anyone here who believes that I abdicate my responsibilities is completely incorrect and inaccurate. When I said the last time that I was relying on our consultants, remember, whoever was here or whoever is watching this, that it had to do with the fact that there was a question regarding whether what had to be minor completions, as explained by our consultant, Ashley Lee, was something that was unique. Was it something that was always happening? Was it? And what she said was, no, it's not a unique situation. This is what happened. And so when I say that I trust that opinion, it is an opinion that I trust, and the trustworthiness and credibility of someone who says specifically, no, this is not something that is that unusual. Under no circumstances did I otherwise abdicate my responsibilities. To those who think that I did, you have misapprehended and, quite frankly, done it in such a way that some of the emails basically impugned me, which is, I get it. Everyone has very strong opinions, but please make certain the next time that you understand that each one of us on this board have independently reviewed literally thousands and thousands of pages. And the fact that we've expressed our opinions and stated, in my opinion, that our consultants have done a very good job does not in any way relieve my obligation to make an independent assessment of any project, including this project. So I just wanted to make that clear. And it's to anyone who lives in our town, who votes in our town, and to people even who don't live in our town, who like to weigh in on what Crossroads means or what any other project. But just so that it's clear, there are certain expertises which we don't have in the town, and we need to look at what our consultants suggest. Otherwise, I'm not an engineer, as was stated by Bob. I'm not an engineer. I'm not a traffic consultant. I'm not a wetland consultant. And I think that everyone on this board reads very carefully what has been placed in these DEIS, the PDEIS, the DEIS in all of its incarnations, and the preliminary final environmental impact statement, including the environmental impact statement that was submitted the last time that I voted was complete. So let me preface that statement. Now, as far as what the finding statement has, I think there's a couple of things in here, and I'm sure that since everyone is quite certain, you know, just to make certain that we all looked at this statement, reviewed it with the consultants. I know I certainly did. I know that Edwin and I did. I know that Lynn has spoken to Ashley. I know that, I'm pretty sure that Tony's spoken to Ashley. But at this point in time, just a couple of comments. In the first instance, just so that one of the issues with that I've had with all of this has been the traffic. I've said it from the very beginning. So when you turn to page 13 in the traffic and the transportation, pardon me, page 14, there is something that says traffic operation conditions along Route 312 and throughout the study area roadway network are expected to continue deteriorating by the project's horizon year 2015 without the traffic generated by the proposed development, comma, as traffic volumes are projected to continue to grow 0.8% annually, and several other planned developments along State Route 312 and in the vicinity of the study area are projected to be completed in the near future. Results of the capacity analysis and storage queue analysis for the 2015 no-build conditions indicated that even without traffic volumes associated with the proposed action, there will be significant deficiencies throughout the study area along State Route 312 between US Route 6 and State Route 22 and in the vicinity of the Interstate 84 interchange. The 2015 no-build analysis identifies specific locations that will experience a deterioration in level of service, increase in delay, and queue lengths that exceed available storage length. Regardless of whether the proposed Crossroads 312 development is approved, the adjacent roadway network will require improvements. So in essence, there are going to be improvements that are detailed throughout this document and throughout this finding statement that show the improvements that will be implemented to this area, an area that requires improvements regardless of whether or not there is a crossroads. And what's being proposed by the applicant are a number of significant road improvements which will otherwise, in my opinion, need to be taken by the town itself, saving significant monies along the Route 312 corridor. Therefore, the town board finds that the potential traffic impacts of the Crossroads 312 project will be mitigated by the proposed traffic improvement measures, and that the proposed roadway improvement measures will improve the overall conditions of the Route 312 corridor. Improve it. And these are additions, this is work, this is transportation work that would otherwise be needed. In terms of the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation stormwater issues, per New York City DEP requirements, off-site road improvements shall meet the requirements of the NYS DEC Stormwater Manual for quantity control, runoff reduction, and quality improvements. The analyses contained in the preliminary SWPPP indicate that the stormwater practices proposed for the project site will mitigate the quantity of runoff generated in each storm, even to rates equivalent or below the rates generated in the undeveloped condition. In regard to runoff quality, an analysis of effect of the project on phosphorus load contributions to receiving water indicates that the proposed stormwater practices will achieve reductions of phosphorus under loads generated in existing conditions. So, when one looks through the finding statement and the completed final environmental impact statement, which we were told on the town board that the changes, the additions that were necessary the last time that were described have indeed been made to the final environmental impact statement. and along with the environmental findings, which indeed detail when one reads this statement, and reads the statement not thinking which side one might be on otherwise. It shows that there will be improvements in this area that I believe otherwise would have had to have been undertaken by the town in the long run. It says 2015, and that's next year. That's next year. So in looking at what has been proposed, what has now been adopted as a final environmental impact statement, I am going to be voting in favor of the acceptance of this finding statements. And I will say again that there is still a long road to go in terms of planning and development. And in addition, we are having a public hearing which now, once again, brings forth all of the ability of the public to weigh in again regarding this local law. And it isn't anything that anyone here said no to. And it increases the transparency and everybody's right to come in and weigh in on the rest of this project. But I am confident, using my independent judgment, that this finding statement should be adopted. Thank you.
Thank you. Crossroads 312. Okay. Before I begin, I just want to say that the Crossroads project is one of the more important issues that has come before this town board in quite some time. It has generated a lot of emails, letters, and phone calls, those in favor and those who are opposed. You can tell by the comments that you have heard this evening that someone on this board is representing your voice on whatever side of the issue you are on. I believe the single most important issue that came out of the PDEIS public hearing was that almost every person who spoke supported the need for a hotel. The current zoning for this property, RC, which is rural commercial, allows for a hotel. It also allows for a conference center and a bank. Retail is a permitted use as an accessory use. So why the need for a zone change? In the applicant's own words, uses allowed under RC zoning would not generate similar levels of sales or income due to lack of retail sales. As some of you may recall, the first submission to this applicant's project requested a new zone, 8C1A, be created specifically for this project and applicant. At that time, the applicant stated that the 8C1 zone alternative for large retail depicted a retail and restaurant complex possible of 57,000 square feet. The applicant does not feel economic returns exist to support the proposal. The applicant now embraces the 8C1 district, and the retail figure used originally of 57,000 square feet has swelled to 146,000 square feet, a questionable 86,000 square feet increase. Let me share with you the words of a previous supervisor of Town of Southeast in a Journal News article dated May 4th, 2007, concerning the rezoning of the Crossroads parcels. The super was a town board member when the Crossroads parcels were changed from 8C1 then to the current RC zone now. The developer of the Highlands is now the applicant for the Crossroads project. Now this is the supervisor speaking, quoted, "What we're trying to do is not have another Home Depot type of development. The town board has learned from its mistakes in approving the Highlands. We're not trying to say no growth, we are trying to say build in a way that would be good for our town." Now let me share with you a bit of history on hotel development here in Putnam County. This information comes from an article printed on November 1, 2007 in the Putnam County Courier. It is in reference to a hotel complex proposed in the town of Carmel. Now this is the developer, and it's not the developer here in Putnam, that's for Crossroads. It's a completely different developer. Now, within 60 to 120 days, ground will be broken. The developer predicted within 2 years the hotel would be completed. Those who said it would never happen will see a hole in the ground next spring. The hotel will be followed by a YMCA, restaurants, retail, professional offices, and some senior housing. The developer wants Putnam visitors to no longer travel to Greater Danbury, Southern Dutchess, or Northern Westchester for lodging. The developer said residents were eagerly awaiting the construction since proposals will result in great tax benefits for the community, as well as hierarchy jobs, hotel managers, catering directors, as well as hotel staff. The hotel will be a great resource to both local residents and local businesses which need hotel in this county. Sound familiar? However, that was over 7 years ago, and the project has never broken ground. This should raise a red flag. Once the town changes the zone to accommodate the applicant, the town should have some sort of guarantee that the hotel will actually be built on the site. That guarantee at a minimum should take the form of a bond or some other financial non-performance instrument if a hotel is not built within a reasonable amount of time. Nestling a hotel among several large retail buildings in the middle of a parking lot may not be an ideal location for a hotel, but it sure make an easy excuse to, at some future date, eliminate the hotel and request additional retail as some sort of hardship. Don't forget, the existing RC zone allows for a hotel, and changing it to 8C1 will require a waiver. The allure of this project has captured the imagination of the public by mentioning hot-button catchphrases such as the creation of a temporary and permanent jobs, shopping opportunities, tax revenues, and more. I'll deal with jobs first. Sure, jobs will be created, but not the quality of life job that is needed to sustain one's existence to live here in Putnam County. Does the town really need another sandwich shop, delicatessen, pizzeria, hair and nail salon, dry cleaner, bank, liquor store, pharmacy, grocery store, or dollar store? Almost every shopping center in town offers at least one, if not multiple stores that provide these services. These types of stores will just dilute the bottom line of similar stores in town, which will then add to another retail store vacancy in a less traveled area of town. Tax revenues? At the town board meeting on November 20, 2014, the county made some interesting statements that I would like to address. The county entered into the record that the county generates approximately $53 million in sales tax revenue, and that the Highlands, the large retail project adjacent to the proposed Crossroads project, generated approximately $5+ million of sales tax revenue. Now, add that conservative estimate of sales tax revenue that we generate by Crossroads, approximately $3+ million, and these two giant retail centers will have the potential of generating anywhere between 15 to 18% of all the sales tax revenue being generated by the 6 towns and 3 villages that make up Putnam County. Now, take all that vehicular traffic that it will take to produce those sales tax revenues by 2 giant retail centers, both within 500 feet of one another, squeeze them onto a 2-lane road, Route 312, a major east-west corridor in the town of Southeast, and tell me it won't have an impact on the quality of life, traffic, and air quality in our town. Let me demonstrate to you the town of Southeast will only share the tiniest sliver of this tax revenue pie. As you can see by the pie chart, no matter how you slice it, the county and school retain over 96.25% of the pie, while the town of Southeast and the Southeast Fire District retain only 3.75%. The county gets $3.2 million, the schools get $1.4 million, plus or minus, and the residents of the town of Southeast get all the traffic, air pollution, aggravation of two large retail complexes for a measly $153,000. Traffic? If I had to describe the current and future traffic conditions as reported in FEIS on Route 312 corridor in a single word, it would have to be nightmare. It appears that all proposed highways improvements proposed by this project have a single contingency if approved by the New York State DOT. Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, they let it get to where it is today. And you heard what Mr. Hudak said earlier, and I'm going to be repeating it shortly, that there's problems out there, but they continue to allow it to go on. Even with the improvements, the FEIS clearly states that various Route 312 lanes servicing both Crossroads and Highlands during Saturday midday peak hours and weekday afternoon peak hours could experience total delay times of between 55 seconds and 80 seconds. That minute or minute and 20 seconds may be the only inconvenience that we experience by those traveling to the site from outside a 2-mile radius of the target zone. But you can rest assured that those who live within that 2-mile radius of the target zone will experience far greater time delays, as those minutes are constant recurring minutes. The constant flow of traffic and idling cars and trucks will spew far greater emissions than if they were traveling at the posted speed limit. Vehicles can shut their air recirculating vent in their car. However, a resident in the area does not have that luxury. One thing that I've always found troubling in both the PDEIS and FEIS is that there is no mention of Sunday traffic in the written script. Now, it's in the chart, but they never mention it in the written script. Even a blurb that there is no Sunday peak hour delays would suffice, but they only mention Saturday midday peak hours and weekday afternoon hours. Evidently, Sunday must not have peak hours, and/or they must be less than Saturday or weekday afternoon peak hours, and is being considered a moot point. The FEIS also states traffic operation conditions along Route 312 and through the study area roadway network are expected to continue deteriorating by the project's horizon, excuse me, year 2015, without the traffic generated by the proposed development as traffic volumes are projected to continue to grow at 0.8% annually, and several planned developments along State Route 312 and the vicinity of study area are projected to be completed in the near future. One of those parcels is a 102-acre site at the intersection of exit 19 at I-84th and 312, just across from the Highlands and Glass Building, that we need to address at some time in the future. How is that parcel zoned? RC. This project as proposed will only add to current traffic congestion on the Route 312 corridor. Vehicles will be forced to seek alternate routes, which will only create further havoc on the town's secondary roads, Minor Road, Brewster Hill Road, North Brewster Road, and yes, even Prospect Hill. If the MTA ever fixes the bridge they closed for 6 months or probably 6 years ago. And don't think for 1 second that these frustrated drivers will have any regard for the health, safety, and welfare of our residents as they speed to their destination. It's already happening and will only get worse. In closing, well, not quite closing, because I got a couple more slides to show you. The ZBA addresses a 5-point criteria prior to issuing and/or denying a variance to an applicant. In this case, it would be a waiver from the town board. I would like to apply those criteria to the Crossroads project, where an undesirable change will produce in the character of the neighborhood. In this case, yes. Based on comments from numerous residents that will be affected by the zone change, the neighborhood will be dramatically impacted by the development. 2, whether the benefits sought by the applicant can be achieved by some feasible method other than a variance. In this case, yes. The applicant can develop the property as is currently zoned, hotel, conference center, restaurant, office, and retail space. 3, whether requested variance is substantial. In this case, yes. The applicant is seeking large retail, much more than the current zone allows. 4, whether the proposed variance will have an adverse effect or impact on environmental conditions in the neighborhood or street. In this case, yes, both environmental and traffic. Whether or not the alleged difficulty was self-created. In this case, yes, the applicant could develop the parcels of the proposed project without a zone change. Now, I'd like to share with you I made the pie chart in case, I know I'd be hungry about this time, so I made the pie chart. And I only got a little bit. So at the bottom line, I also made a chart here showing it as a bar chart. And no matter what happens, ladies and gentlemen, that's the town of Southeast, and that's the fire district. And again, we get 3 3/4% of the pie, the county gets almost 67%, and the school gets the balance. This picture here is a picture of the Highlands on the left-hand side, and that I'm just showing you is in the ridgeline, and I'm showing that possibly in the developer's perspective of the ridgeline. Now, this one I show as what's the resident's perspective of something being built in the ridgeline. It's all in how you take the photo. Now, there's a home on North Brewster Road, which is that White House right there. And right here, it's, it's just there's a house over here, but it's, scenic, so to speak. So just remember that house. Now, this is what that house sees from the picture window. That's not what they saw years ago before Crossroads came in. Not Crossroads, sorry, Highlands. And that's why the town board, because of numerous complaints they got from people in that area, changed that from 8C1 to an RC zone. That one's a little bit closer. I like the birds, by the way, nice and colorful. Well, those are birds. 5 little lovebirds, those are birds, and those are birds. But bottom line, though, that's Crossroads. Now, what's going to happen is right in this area over here, once 84 goes along here, right over here is going to be where Crossroads will be. Now, this is what this homeowner sees. And believe me, she's not the only homeowner who sees it. Almost everyone along the North Brewster corridor from Shore Drive until probably, no, not quite the firehouse, it doesn't go that far. But actually, Shore Drive goes in, Shore Drive comes out. That whole area, this is what they see. Now, you know, we're being told that, you know, lights are gonna be whatever. This is reality. In other words, you're being told all the time, but whatever person's trying to develop something, they give you a nice rosy picture. This here is what people don't want to happen. And I'm not sure how we can ensure that that will not happen. Now, this is a house about 3 houses up the road from them as you head toward Route 312. Let's see. Okay. This photo is from the PDEIS. Note how the complex is almost completely shielded by evergreens. Now, it's really tough, but right down there, and if you saw it in the book, you almost can't even see the building because of the evergreens. Personally, I don't believe it. I mean, those trees would have to be so huge, but let's take for instance that it is. Now, another thing too is, this says Sunset and Locust, and it's not. It's North Brewster Road and Locust. Now, this next one is the same one. This one now is from the FEIS. Now, balloons depicting height in the original application, height reduced. However, on page ES9 of the FEIS clearly states the maximum height under the DEIS plan showed retail at 28 to 35 feet, and the FEIS plan shows retail at 38 feet. Definitely a 3-foot increase. And again, the concern is, what will these people actually see? Now, this next one, they tried to show what this is going to look like at night. One is the early evening, the top one, and this one, I don't believe it. I'm sorry. I showed you a few seconds ago what their neighbor looks like, and that's what we're supposed to see in the future. And I don't know. I'm skeptical. I'm sorry. Now, this here photo is the Highlands when it was under construction. And one of the reasons the previous town board changed its zone from HC1 to RC. Now, usually there's a balloon test that they do. And I always find it interesting with the balloon test. The balloon would be like right up here, and it shows all the trees. It's very bubolic. It looks really nice. But the reality is, even though the balloon's up here, you know, eventually those trees come down, and then what you got is this. And 35 of the 52 acres that make up the crossroads will be disturbed according to the FEIS. That's a total of 67% of the property. And you saw the previous pictures. Again, I find them questionable. And for those of you that live within a 2-mile radius, this bullseye is 1 mile, that makes 2 miles. I have to admit, the most complaints that I'm receiving is coming from this area, because these are the people that are going to have to live whatever happens on Route 312. Now, again, when I was a Putnam County legislator and I came home from Carmel, I came down John Simpson Road to Route 6. And I'm going to tell you, almost every Friday evening, that the traffic was backed up to the bridge in Tilly Foster for Route 312. Has nothing. The Highlands was there at the time. Don't know why it was so congested, but it was backed up all the way to Tilly Foster. Now, they're going to be making improvements there. They're going to be making maybe a 600-foot onto Route 312, but 600 feet, how many cars it is. Not sure how it's going to help, but so this is where the people that are going to have to live with that. And when you read about a queuing and a backup of 55 seconds to 80 seconds, here, just remember, that car is one car. Behind it is another car, and another, and another, and another. And on Route 312, I've seen the traffic backed up without crossroads and the current conditions that are out there, and then I blame the New York State DOT because that Route 312 is a state road, okay? The state owns the whole length of Route 312, and sometimes I question how they repair. Now, you know, recently they've done Milltown Road. I'm telling you now, it's like your life trying to get, even though they improved it, try to get out here at nighttime. Come down here any night, don't come visit me at 4:30, because I'm telling you now, you'll be an extra 10 minutes because you're not going to get out on, now before, the traffic used to stop right in front of us. And maybe someone will be kind. It's not too often, but someone will be kind and let you go. But try to get out here. I bet you sometimes you can wait up to 5 minutes. It's really, really bad. So, as you heard this evening, there's people in the audience in favor and against. This board is the same. And I do want to thank all my colleagues for all their hard work, because, you know, some of them getting beat up pretty bad because the negatives are making comment to them, And I don't like reading it. I think it's very unfair to them because we can't represent you all, okay? There's people who want it, you have support, and you have people who don't want it. So we've all spoken here this evening. It's now time for us to vote, but again, you're entitled to your opinions, we're entitled to ours, and we can't represent each one of you. I mean, God, I know a family of a husband and a wife. He wants it and she don't, and vice versa. So we're representing you, and this will move forward. And if it does move forward, we still have a lot of review to be done. And I'm going to tell you right now, we'll review it as much time as we've taken to do this. We're going to do it when we review the site plan. And if we end up with it, we'll try to make it the best we possibly can. Any other discussion?
Tony, could
Oh, no, I didn't
could we
want
just ask, could I ask Ashley, I think it would be helpful before we vote as well, what the next steps would be, because I think there's a lot of confusion over where we go from here also.
Well, I can tell you one thing we're going to be doing next is the next is a resolution to refer the local law to the rezone the Crossroads 312 parcel to the Putnam County Planning Board and Town of Southeast Planning Board.
Okay.
And then we're going to have
Right.
a public hearing on January 22nd. Go from there, Ashley.
Okay. And could I also ask, do you remember, because Tony brought up a really good point, what was the height of the balloon in the tests? Do you remember?
I don't recall off the top
Okay.
of my head, but I believe at the time they did it to the height of the hotel, at least the one that was up on the ridge.
Right.
So it would have been higher than 35 feet.
Or
No, but I didn't-
now it's.
Wait, time out. When I made my comments, it had nothing to do with the hotel. I only talked about the retail.
Right, because the hotel is now proposed at 45 feet.
Yes.
But you think it would be underneath where the balloon, well, you'll look into it.
Well, the hotel is in a completely different area, Rich,
No, I
I
know.
believe, too. So
I know.
I didn't use the word hotel, just retail. Retail basically hasn't changed much, but the hotel did.
Right, they used the balloon test to help scale off the photo simulations that
Right.
they provided in the FEIS.
Right.
So those photo sims in the FEIS and the cut sheets that had the cross sections, those should accurately reflect the height of what is currently before you.
Okay.
And in the FEIS, the comments section under comment visual 19, there was a request, where there was a question, since the balloon study test pictures for Shore Drive was taken at the lowest elevation on the street, was other pictures taken at higher elevations on Shore Drive, and can you present them? Why was the lowest elevation on Shore Drive chosen as location to determine the view? The response was pictures were taken at many locations along Shore Drive. The balloons were not visible in any photographs. The hillside on the town land associated with Tenetta Park and the existing vegetation on the west side of Tenetta Lake block views of the Crossroads sites. Please refer to cross-section C-6 through C-10 for more information on views from Shore Drive. So that's, and I believe the balloon tests were taken back in 09, right? So that was when,
Winter.
Yeah.
so-
that was when everything was higher. That was when the proposal was
Right.
for a higher hotel?
Yes,
Okay.
It was
And so the hotel's been scaled down since?
yes.
beginning of December 2009, I believe.
Now, my biggest concern with any of the balloon tests or whatever,
was there.
the trees will come down, like I mentioned earlier, whatever the percentage is. It's still going to be, 60% of the land is going to be deforested, okay? So you have tall trees come down, now you're dealing with dirt, they're going to spread it out, make it level, and, do different variations. I just wanted to find out a way that, not only with this development, but any development, if they say something is going to be, and it doesn't happen, we're stuck with it. If they say this tree's staying, and all of a sudden, someone makes a mistake and cuts it down, we have to live with it. Just like the traffic, we're being told we're going to be able to solve that problem. It's going to be resolved. But if that problem's not resolved, we have to live with it for the rest of our lives. That's the concern of anyone that's here. Because I'm telling you right now, they push a development over, not development, I'll mention it, Costco. Everyone wanted Costco here. It's not coming at the moment that I know of. But Costco on Brookfield on Route 7. I mean, people won't even go, people go to Costco, but no one wants to go visit anyone over there because you just can't get through the traffic. And that's what people are afraid will happen to Route 312. Now, if it doesn't happen, I'll eat crow, okay? But if it does happen, I'll still be eating crow.
Maybe one of those pretty birds on that window.
Yeah,
No.
that's right.
Also
I do know in the finding statement, it's the proposed project involves a significant amount of excavation, including the clear cutting within the existing ridgeline area to establish the building pad. To mitigate this disturbance, the applicant will be required to revegetate the exposed sloped areas, including installing a buffer of trees along the eastern edge of the parking lot, the portion of the site nearest the North Brewster Road area. The planting plan will be finalized during site plan review. So that's another step. That's another step that is going to include what apparently would be helpful to you, us, everyone. It says, but shall include a mix of native evergreen and deciduous trees to provide a natural edge to the development. The applicant shall be required to revegetate the entire slope, and large expanses of riprap shall be prohibited. But this is something that's coming up. So this is something that we as a town board, planning, need to focus on to make certain that what is stated in here is properly done, correct?
Yes.
And then the applicant will be required to do that.
Well, they might do it, but, I mean, unfortunately, you can't see it very well, but those trees are, I mean, look at, the reality of, the property is like this no matter what you do. I don't have the high and low of the topo, okay? And 67%, 67% is gonna be deforested, okay? And the land goes like this. So for every, and the tree's like 40 feet high. Well, they're not gonna replant, and as you go downhill, you need a tree that's 200 feet high. I don't know the numbers, but the reality of it is, we say one thing, we approve one thing, and then the reality of the situation doesn't happen. Like the developer of McCarver, gonna build a hotel, gonna have all these fancy things. 7 years later, it didn't happen. So words mean nothing. The reality is, what is the final, and how do we hold their feet to the fire? I mean, they'll plant trees, and I think they said 15 to 20-foot trees, but if they cut down a 40-foot tree, what's a 20-foot tree gonna do us? And it's also on an angle. Now, I won't make it that much, like this, okay? Anyway, continue. Answer.
Right. And could I clarify one other thing? If 312, if the conditions do worsen as is projected, even without the crossroads being approved, who is responsible on 312 for those if the crossroads isn't built and we need lights and we need things? Being a state road with the New York State DOT, so it will not cost the town money, correct?
It would be the responsibility of the DOT.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah,
that.
except that
We
in the
pay
long
state
run,
taxes.
you're still going to have an increase in taxes anyway, which would be, when we talk about direct taxes,
Right.
you know, when we say that it's generating these taxes, just remember, and as far as Route 312, but I think that the primary concern that Tony has and people have is the fact that the traffic is backed up, the road itself is not surfaced properly, and, you know, and quite frankly, even Tony said, basically the DOT hasn't done the job that they're supposed to do. And you're not going to be able to tell me that there isn't going to be any impact monetarily or economically on people who are driving there, because that's the crux of really what Tony's saying. Remember, there's what he's citing. I mean, what about all those cars, you know, spending and using gas on the roads? So,
Okay.
I mean, ultimately, it affects us.
Okay, so after we have the public hearing,
Right, so once the public hearing is closed, you would be able to take action on the zoning amendments and the map change. If you vote yes, then the applicant would then proceed with site plan and special permit approval through the town board. The town board would hold a public hearing on the site plan and special permit. You would also make referrals to the county and to the Southeast Planning Board and the Southeast Architecture Review Board for their reports and recommendations. But the final action would then be with the town board.
now, one of the things I really have a problem with this document we're approving tonight, I don't think the town board should be involved in this. I really don't. I don't know why the previous town board wanted this. I mean, we're gonna have it thrown into our lap, and it states in here. I mean, we could always change that, ladies and gentlemen, and let it belong where it belongs, with the planning board. That's what they're there for. We don't want to take the zoning board of appeals job, which we can't because of whatever. But I mean, why do we want this? I mean, you know, everything is political, but the planning boards generally are not political. We're kind of political. I'd rather see all this go in front of them. If they need a waiver, they come to the town board. If they need a special permit, they come to the town board. But for this town board to take this and now become a planning board, We're now doing double duty. I don't have a problem doing it. I mean, I did my homework, and I'll do my homework in the future, but I don't think this town board, or any town board, should do that.
I just want to say, I object right away, you know, that this is political. I hope you're not saying that this town board would do anything politically after we worked so hard, reviewed the documents,
No,
and
but
really
we're-
did a heck of a job.
But we're elected. It's
Well,
political.
you understand, but.
Well, that's what I meant by elected.
But people who are appointed by the political board then, correct?
Well, it's not, I don't think it's the same.
Oh, okay.
I don't. We're political. Planning boards hopefully are not. And it's not that we do things politically, but we answer directly to the public.
Well, as long as you clarify, because to me, I think that this review and everything that we've done, you know, particularly by this board, has been pretty apolitical.
Well, I think so too, but that's not what I hear out in public, but that's beside the point.
Well, you could hear a lot of things out in public, but I got to tell you, you have to sit back and look in the mirror one day and say, hey, this has not been a political process as far as I'm concerned. Everybody's worked together.
I believe I have. And when you mention, hey, that was me, but I do look in the mirror every day and I don't see good things, but life goes on. Okay, Ashley, where do we go?
So you have the finding statement before you this evening, so you can take action on that. You can also set the public hearing for the zoning text change and zoning map amendment, as well as the referrals to the Putnam County and the planning board. Then,
Well, we did that. We already said.
right.
Not the referrals.
We're not there yet.
You're,
Not the
No,
referrals.
but we did this, we
Yes,
did the
yes.
public, set the public hearing. And then next item is next. We're moving along.
Okay.
so
But I wanted her to clarify that.
Okay.
I really appreciate it. I think, if not for the, maybe the public knows way better where we are, but I always like to hear it repeated. I think it's helpful for everyone to know where we stand in the process.
Okay, so whether it's political or not, do we as a town board want to take on and continue to take on this responsibility of being a planning board?
I had asked that question a couple of meetings ago as far as
But this
doing it
document-
this way.
Yeah.
So what do we want to bring it up in the future some point in time and make the change? Because I think we should really discuss with the planning board as well. Is this something that this town board or any town board wants to do? I don't think it's a thing for us to do. I don't mind it, don't get me wrong. But they have tons of experience. We all have to admit, I mean, you represent the town board on the planning board, you're there a lot. Edwin, I think, is on the ZBA. Lynn was there forever. I used to go from time to time. You know, Bob is, he goes to him from time to time. But do we really want to do that? And if you ask me, I say no. So we'll discuss it at some point in time in the future.
I'd like to suggest that if you do want to make that change, that you should possibly consider referring two versions of the local law over to the planning board and the
Well-
county. Because if you do make that change, that's a pretty substantial change to the text that's before you.
No, we're gonna leave the text, we're gonna leave everything, we're not gonna do, I don't hear I'm delaying the project or anything. We're gonna
Tony,
let,
excuse me, Mr. Supervisor, the text of the local law is what establishes the jurisdiction for this board to review large retail.
okay, and we can do that this evening. We can change it in the future, could we not?
You can adopt another local law.
Right, and that's what I suggest we do. Pass this the way it is and get this
Well, you
thing,
won't be passing it tonight, you've set the
Well,
public hearing.
set the
And
public
what-
hearing,
what-
but-
What Ashley has recommended is if you've got a concern, then we should submit two versions of a proposed local law, and you all make the determination of which one you want to ultimately adopt.
again, I'm not saying time is
That
the
way the
essence.
public hearing would cover both.
I believe this application should continue to move along under our jurisdiction. It started there, it should end there.
I mean,
But I
we
want
would
to.
declare lead agency. I don't know if we
Yeah,
can
no,
stop.
I don't want to do
No,
that.
no, no,
What
he's
I'm
saying
trying
in
to say
future.
is any future projects, before we get another type in front of us, let's discuss it. If we want to do it, we do it. And if we want to bring it back to the planning and zoning, planning board to review it, that's what I would like us to consider. But this project is moving forward exactly as it started. We're doing this start to finish, and maybe after that, we will say, boy, we don't want to do that again.
Well, no, but I think we should be pretty assured that if there is a zoning change, that there probably will be in the future other RC zones that want the change as well. So that's why it's important to establish now, like you're saying,
Personally, this moves along and
Right.
stays the track it's
Absolutely.
going.
Because we're lead
What we will
agency.
do in sometime in the future, like, next meeting, meetings after that, discuss this. Do we really want to do this? Another
If I
board?
could make another clarifying point.
Okay.
This board will always be the board that determines whether or not a zone is changed.
Oh, yeah.
But they
The
want to
issue
keep
is-
it.
The issue
Right.
is whether or not
It
this board
stays.
acts as a planning board for large retail development.
Right.
But this board would decide
Right.
if we want to be the planning
Yeah,
board. So we
ultimately, yes.
really
Well,
don't.
right now,
think what Tony's
we
saying-
are, but do we really want that? For some reason,
But I
some-
think when that project comes, we can decide that.
I think we should do it long before another project comes. I don't think we're going to see one for
I mean,
maybe 6 months.
none of us were on the board when this was.
I know, and I read what a
Right.
previous supervisor had to say. They had different thoughts. They didn't want signs, they didn't want this, but they wanted this in front of them. I just don't think we should be doing it.
I think one of the things we've tried to discuss in the past is to streamline projects in the sense of not having them go to the planning board, waste, let's pretend, 18 months to then come before this board to then find out we're not going to approve a project. And I think that the thought process behind any of this was, this way, they know, the applicants know upfront whether or not we're going to approve a zone change or not, and then it ends there or begins there, as opposed to, spending another 5 years, let's say, before the planning board, come to us, have everything Brewster Honda is almost a perfect example of how many times they've come back and forth. And I think it would be nice to know ahead of time whether or not, the zone change is even possible.
Well, the
I
problem,
mean,
Edwin, really the problem there is the damn seeker process. I mean, they're the ones that require that.
Yeah.
And what also.
but I
and what
think the
also-
process is backwards. And
It
I think
is.
that's why we've tried to
But even-
basically streamline it a little bit.
But as long as Honda's, we've maybe had a completely change of a town board. If there was an election this year and we had, say, 2 board members, or 1 board member switch, and we took on a environmentalist, and all of a sudden they
Right.
don't want it, then the poor applicant is now stuck in between.
Okay,
a
but
rock and a hard
I
place
think
again.
really what it comes down to is we're going to continue.
This project.
We're continuing the
We can't
project.
change this
No,
I
we're
think
not-
we can have a work session, perhaps what we can do is, discuss the different parameters in a better way, but I just think that right now,
Yep.
we're speaking about whether we're adopting the Crossroads 312 Statement of Environmental Findings.
Okay, it's been seconded and moved.
Was it?
It
Now-
wasn't second.
No, it wasn't
It wasn't-
second.
How did we have discussion without?
For
Lynn- Lynn
discussion,
for
it was.
discussion did it.
No,
We did all
actually,
that?
no.
Oh, we have to
No,
start
I thought
again?
for discussion,
Have to do it again?
Let's do it all over again.
Okay, who moved it? I
You
did.
moved.
You did.
And no one seconded?
No.
I did.
Oh,
Edwin says he
I had
did.
said Ashley wants to talk, let's open this up for discussion. So
Okay, so
technically, I
Edwin.
moved it.
Okay.
I didn't want to do that again, jeez. Okay, roll call vote.
Councilman Alvarez.
Yes.
Councilman Cullen.
Yes.
Councilwoman Eckhart.
No.
Councilwoman Hudak.
Yes.
Supervisor Hay.
No. Resolution number 8, resolution, refer local law to rezone the Crossroads 312 parcels from RC to HC1 and the local law for text change to the Putnam County Planning Board and the Town of Southeast Planning Board. So, I just said it. Resolved that the town clerk is hereby authorized and directed to forward a copy, certified copy of this resolution together with copies of the proposed local laws to amend the zoning code and map to the planning board and director of Putnam County Division of Planning forthwith. So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call vote.
Councilman Alvarez.
Yes.
Councilman Cullen.
Yes.
Councilwoman Eckhart.
Yes.
Councilwoman Hudak.
Yes.
Supervisor Hay.
Yes. No matter what position we take, it's got to be reviewed. Number 9, resolution authorizing supervisor to sign the KVS Information System contract. Resolved that the Town of Worth, Town of Southeast hereby accepts the proposal of KVS Information Systems, Inc. for information technology services and authorizes the town supervisor to execute any and all contracts, memoranda of agreement, or other documents necessary to employ the services of this vendor in a manner and form as it may be approved by the town attorney. Be further resolved that this resolution shall take effect immediately. So moved.
Second.
Brief discussion. We're networking the town. I know you all love the new voucher system. We don't have to come in anymore.
Yes.
It's done at home. And this is an expansion of that, and the town will be networked probably almost 100% by June of next year. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Number 10, resolution appointment to the planning board. Resolved that the town board of Town Southeast hereby appoints.
I'd like to make a motion to appoint Paul Yankee to the planning board.
I'll second it.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution is number 9.
Did you say resolve, that the appointment shall take place? Did you say that, please?
Okay, sorry, I did not. Resolved that the appointment shall take effective on January 1, 2015, and upon the taking and filing of the appropriate oath of office of the aforesaid appointee with the clerk of the town of Southeast. Passed already. Okay. Number 11, resolution to appointment to the ZBA. Resolved that the town board of towns of Southeast hereby appoints.
I would like to make a motion to appoint Deborah, D-E-B-R-A, as Kaiser.
Sorry. Go ahead. Pardon? Sorry. Go ahead.
You just
Okay.
can't wait to.
I know.
Deborah S. Kaiser to the Zoning Board of Appeals for the town of Southeast.
And it's with great pleasure that I second that motion. It will be wonderful to have a woman on the zoning board, so.
To a full term of the Southeast Zoning Board of Appeals, and be further resolved that this appointment shall take effect on January 1, 2015, and upon the taking and filing of the appropriate oath of office of the aforesaid appointee with the clerk of the town of Southeast. All in favor?
Aye.
Number 12, let me just see something here.
What is,
Okay, this, number 12, is to increase the maximum amount to be spent in connection with the establishment of the Peaceful Hill Water District. Okay, therefore, it is hereby ordered by the Town Board of the Town of Southeast, Putnam County, New York, as follows. Section 1, pursuant to Section 209H of the Town Law, it is hereby determined that it is in public interest to increase the maximum amount authorized to be expended in connection with the establishment of Peaceful Hill Water District in the town of Southeast, Putnam County, New York, to an increased manual estimate of $2,228, which will not constitute an undue burden on the property in said water district. It is hereby further determined that all real property to be assessed to pay the cost thereof will be benefited by proposed improvements at the increased cost thereof, and not befitted property has been excluded from boundaries of said water district. Section 2. The improvements proposed for said water district consist of the construction of a water supply, storage, purification, and distribution system, including installation and/or replacement of certain mains and laterals, and construction and operation of pumping stations, and the construction and operation of water treatment facility to serve properties in the Peaceful Hill Water District in the town of Southeast, Putnam County, New York. The maximum amount to be expended by said water district pursuant to these proceedings for said improvement shall not exceed $2,228,000. Said cost of said improvement shall be financed by the issuance of serial bonds of said town maturing in annual installments over a period not exceeding 40 years, payable in the first instance from assessment levied upon and collected from several lots and parcels of land within and said water district deemed benefited from the improvements, in an amount sufficient to pay the principal and interest on said bonds as the same become due. But if not paid from such source, all taxable real property in said town shall be subject to the levy of ad valorem taxes without limitation as to the rate or sufficient amount to pay the principal of interest and said bonds as it shall become due. Section 3, this order is hereby adopted, subject to permissive referendum, and town clerk shall publish a notice of adoption thereof, together with a full text, including Exhibit A hereof, within 10 days of the date hereof, in the official newspaper of the town of Southeast. Post same, the official signboard and website of the town of Southeast within 10 days hereof. The question of adoption foregoing ordered duly put to a vote of roll call, which resulted as follows. So, I move. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion.
The only point that I'll make is in Section 1, just to clarify, but you had corrected it in Section 2. The amount you had said was something akin to $228,000. It's $2,228,000. Just
I was
wanted to
thinking,
clarify.
I was thinking the sales tax we give the county.
That's right, exactly.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay, I moved it. You were seconded? Discussion further? All in favor?
Aye.
And all the parcels of land are all behind it. I don't know why they can't put them on one page, but. Okay. 13, resolution to approve town supervisor to sign 2 funding grants to renovate Lakeview Manor. We've applied for grants, which were obtained from Mr. Ball to improve the Lakeview Manor Senior Center. And I look forward to getting that done. Resolved, the Town of Southeast Town Board hereby accepts the grant funding offered by DASNY and authorizes the town supervisor to execute any and all contracts, memoranda, and agreement of other documents necessary to assess grant funds to be used in connection with the improvement of the Lakeview Manor Recreation Facility in a manner and form as may be approved by the town attorney. And be further resolved that this resolution shall take effect immediately. So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Aye. 14, resolution to approve the reduction of the bond for the Drewville Mart. That's the one over by Route 6 in the bottom of Brewster Heights in Putnam County Savings Bank. That's the mobile mart there. Now therefore be resolved that the performance security posted by Drewville Heights Realty LLC in the amount of $62,200 in connection with the site plan application for premises located at 2495 Carmel Avenue, tax map number 67.6-1-40, is hereby reduced to $3,600, and the original performance security is canceled by issuing institution, and the town clerk is authorized to return any and all original bonds, deposits, letters of credit, or other indicia of security originally posted in connection with a project to the developer upon posting of replacement security in the required amount. And be further resolved that the town clerk is hereby directed to forward a certified copy of this resolution to the planning board secretary, the town building inspector, and the property owner forthwith. So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
I'd just like to say, that gas station is one of the nicest looking gas stations in town. They always keep flowers out during the warm weather, and I think it's well maintained, so.
It is.
It is a very nice looking station.
And I would just add, I was at that meeting, and the 3,600 is to, the ARB especially felt that they needed to have a little more evergreen plantings on that property, so I think it will look a lot, I think it'll look nicer, especially for 6 months of the year when that's completed.
I remember when I first came on supervisor, it was like in January, and I kept getting email after email, going back between the ARB and this project. And I kept seeing the word dental mall. I said, what in the
Here we
heck is
go.
dental mall? Well, I found out what it was, and they didn't like it. I'll tell you what, I think it looks a lot better than what they proposed, but that's beside the point. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, supervisor's financial report. Actually, it's the last one for this year, but we still have one more to go. I won't say things are fine in the town of Southeast. They're good, okay? We're still over budget a little bit with outside counsel. That's not any fault of yours, Will. Unfortunately, we have a lot of people that feel, I guess we have some extra money and they want us to part with it somehow. But Nymer does a great job for us. So other than that, which is something we can't predict, you have no idea, prior to starting what kind of litigation you might face during the year. Again, still one overtime line that's kind of a little bit, I think, out of whack. But other than that, we're going to meet our budget, stay within it. We're going to have a couple pennies left over. And there's a couple things I might try to pay off this year, depending. I have some of this already budgeted for next year in our 2015 budget. But there's a couple extra pennies I want to, pay up some of the other things and keep us on a good track. Right now, we're in a lot better shape than we were, but we still have a long way to go. So, recognition of the public.
Good evening. I just want to make a comment. I went to the opening today. I just drove into the new deli that was open on 312 that we just approved.
Cameron's, yeah.
Yes, and I got to tell you something, it was great. I walked in there, and I walked out, and I was following two other couples that walked out, and they looked across the way, and they say, what a visual pollution we have across the street with Simons. It is a disgrace. The system's broke. We're asking people to come and do business in our town, and we can't even have the courts take care of a lawsuit that we won to take care of a visual pollution we have there. And I just was freaked out today because there's three couples standing there. Oh, this poor guy, he's not going to make it. Look across the street. Who wants to come here and look at this? And I spoke to the town council about it. I know it's in the courts and we're doing our best, but the system's broke. This system's broke that goes on, the pollution that goes on there. We're holding the new applicants to a standard, and we can't seem to get the courts to enforce something that they voted on. So I just have that comment. It was just disgraceful today. to look at
I
that.
appreciate the comment, but I really think our direction should be toward the DEP. I mean, when we have high tide, when we have heavy rains, those vehicles that are there are actually in their water. Now, they make us go through all kinds of hoops, MS4, this, that, everything else, and we're spending tons of money, and they allow that to happen. It's absolutely ridiculous.
I've had a conversation with Will, and it's just a system, I guess. The system's broke. I know the town's doing everything possible, pushing our council to get a decision to force enforcement. But there was 3 couples that just walked out there and said, "Oh my God!" And I, as a planning board guy, I didn't realize the elevation was so high that you could overlook the whole Simon's disaster. And I guess this, we're asking all these people to come to town and hold them to standard, and we can't get the courts to get a violator to perform. So I think the system's a little broke at this point. And I was a little upset today when I went in to congratulate him, what a great job he did. So that's my comment for
And
tonight.
that's why our outside counsel bill is where it is, because we've been
Well, it's
fighting
amongst
for
the
it.
reasons.
Yeah, but.
I'm sorry?
It's amongst the reasons why the
Yeah.
town council, the outside attorney's fees are high.
I'm not about that. I just think,
Well,
Tony, I agree with you. The DEP is, giving everybody else a hard time, and this thing is like an environmental disaster. And nothing's been done, and we won in court, and we can't, and what are we doing?
We have to keep going through.
And we have other applicants who are just trying to advance certain projects here, and we're holding to a standard, and the courts can't seem to get violators to perform. So I had a problem with that today. That bothered me big time today.
I think what is really unfortunate is if you look, aside from the deli, and I've spoken to the owner there, and he actually has had, at that point, a good relationship with the junkyard. He was hoping to move them in ways we haven't been able to, or the courts haven't. But the bike trail that comes through Southeast, it's really probably the least attractive part of the bike trail. It's really.
No, it's the prettiest and least attractive.
Oh, it's
Along the
pretty.
reservoir, it's that's a beautiful trail until you hit.
Yeah, and then,
The junkyard.
by suburban propane and all that, so.
Sure.
I know, I really feel your frustration.
It was just so disheartening, because this guy's got his life and soul into a beautiful.
And we have some other, I don't want to get into it, but there's other cases going on which have just been dragging on forever.
And listen, I understand, because I have this conversation with the board and Will all the time. It's not our end, it's the court system, and there's something broken here.
And I think it's good that the public and people at home realize that the town, we're trying, and it's out of our hands.
It's totally out of your hands, and I just was so disappointed to listen to the people walking out of the deli. What a nice job they did here, and whoa.
Just for clarification purposes, Mr. Chairman, the decision that was rendered by the Supreme Court against Simon's junkyard, auto wrecking, whatever they're called, would only require the consolidation of the junk mass onto a smaller footprint. That's because the smaller footprint was where it was established prior to our town adopting legislation that prohibits junkyards or the proliferation of junkyards. So even once we are able to get them to comply with the court order, which they failed to do by April of this year, which was the stipulation of, the so-ordered stipulation, there is still going to be a junkyard there. And there's nothing we can really do about that other than require certain screening, which is part of our current code. I don't know that that is anything more than putting lipstick on a pig.
No, I understand the parameters of the court decision, but where's the outrage for the DEP? Where's the outrage?
We've tried to get the DEP involved in several different, in several different respects with regard to that use and other uses in and around the watershed. And it seems as they pick their battles carefully.
Thank you.
Samantha Jacobs, Shore Drive. So, Tony, I'd like to say thank you so much for actually making the effort to go and take pictures.
No, I wish we all get treated the same equally here. I'd rather you not single anyone out, only because, Samantha.
Well, let's put it this way. We can agree to disagree.
Well, I don't like that, so make me happy. Compliment everybody.
I actually took pictures. I can actually email the photos to you. So this is where the developer took a picture from Southeast Rec Center on Shore Drive. And you can see, because the trees are now really thin on the other side of the lake, you can actually see the mountain that Crossroads is going to sit on. And then I took a picture. It's really hard because I took it with my phone. But this is the ridge line of the mountain, and then the top of it is at the top of the trees across the lake. So when they did the balloon test, I had actually seen both balloons from my living room window. So I know that we will have a view of the project. And I really...
Now you do sit up, I think I know where your father lives. He lives up about, he lives higher than...
Correct. Correct.
I don't know what the elevation, 15, 20 feet.
Yeah.
It makes a difference. As you're riding anyway, even up in, oh God, what is it? When you're going toward Fishkill, you come to the elevation, it says whatever.
Correct.
And you have that beautiful view.
Correct.
While you're going, 4
Correct.
seconds later, you have no view. So where you...
Well, you know, the rest of the houses, as you keep going down the lake, they get more and more in line with Crossroads. So I have a nighttime view of Highlands, so I can see all the lights in the parking lot. So, but as you continue farther down the lake, they have a year-round view.
Yeah.
So they'll see everything. So that was why I had asked questions of the developer, because this idea that you're taking it at the lowest elevation and there's not going to be a view, I guess a lot's changed in that time because the trees have really gotten thin on the other side of the lake from all the development that's been kind of coming in. So there's less and less of a buffer between us and that hilltop. So, and you know, past experience has been, we were promised a lot of things with Highlands. We were supposed to get a lot of plantings, there were supposed to be trails, and then as the project kept moving forward, everything just kept getting cut away. I mean, from my living room window in the wintertime, I can see the Home Depot sign from the highway. I mean, who wants to see a big, bright yellow sign, Home Depot? I mean, it's sort of sad. It's like your home actually gets a view of a concrete building. It's not pretty. It's not a pretty sight. And one of my neighbors is actually, you can see the Kohl's sign from her living room window. I mean,
Well, I showed you what that lady sees from her living room window.
I'm sure too, yeah. Yeah, so we end up with a lot of the ugliness on our daily basis. I mean, I'd hope you folks would want to realize that that's pretty depressing, to go outside your home and look at commercial development, and to know that this project is going to go through and that I'm going to have a view of whatever's going to be there. So, you know, to me, the RC code is a balance. It's about finding a compromise, because I'm not against development. I'm just against having to be living right on top of it. So, and I mean, obviously, I have to live with the traffic. And I think what's so frustrating, and so many other residents who have this topic, nobody wants to address it. You guys are totally silent. There's only a couple of people who are addressing this. And I'm sorry, I don't agree that these improvements are just going to alleviate everything. Because now we're going to still have an additional, it's like 1,900 cars a day on the road. 500 cars an hour. I mean, it's already busy. Now we're adding the next layer. I mean, things were mentioned that, like people who don't have a traffic light are going to have extended delays leaving their road to enter 312. What happens? You get frustrated, you get pissed off, you get angry, and then accidents happen because people pull out. It was mentioned that there's going to be a higher rate of accidents, I-84 and 312. Then where does the traffic go when there's an accident? Because the road's not wide enough. So then where do people go? They have to take side roads. I'm concerned that there are going to be certain roads that people are going to use as cut-through. And I'm fortunate. I don't live on those roads, but a lot of other people do. I had asked if they knew, if the developer could figure out if trailer trucks are going to use 312 as a cut-through, you know, to continue down the road, rather than using 84, and there's no way to measure that. And we already have a lot of tractor-trailer traffic coming through. When I was putting flyers out for Crossroads, the traffic is tremendous. And when the trailer trucks, you know what it's like to stand on the side of the road, and there's this huge truck whizzing by you? It is terrifying. They must be doing, well, the DES indicated that the average speed on the road there is 60 miles an hour. So the speed limit's 45, but the average rate the cars are going are 60. So you look at those trucks, they're speeding through. I mean, I don't understand why we're not asking the fire department their opinion. I mean,
They've made their
They
opinion.
made their opinion, it's in the DEIS.
Well,
I mean, the FDA.
I can't, you know, I just know that there's a lot of conflict in around this. You know, I just think it's a recipe for disaster, and it's who gets to live with it? We do. And so it's not about not developing, it's about compromise. Like, can't we figure out how to make this a compromise? And I do agree that, Lynn, we're going to build a hotel that overlooks a big box retailer. Like, don't we want to have something that's sort of attractive, that wants to pull tourists in? Because who wants to really stay at a hotel that overlooks a big box retailer in a parking lot? Who wants to have a wedding there? Well, you know, I mean, like, all this potential, and it's not going to happen because I understand the developer wants to make money, and the best way to make money, Putnam County and the developer get to make the most money from this. And that's through retail, not really a hotel. So, thank you for listening. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the public?
My name is Ann Finizzi. I want to just thank the board, or thank, shall I say, some members of the board, because as a resident, I appreciate evidence of the board looking into a development. And I have to say, Mr. Alvarez, I'm sure you're more than educated and that you have read, but I would have appreciated evidence of your thought.
Had I known we were going to
Right.
basically dissect everything tonight, I would have. I thought we were just going to vote, but I had everything all tabbed up.
Well, you know
And I
what?
didn't want to reiterate exactly what
Well,
other
you
people
know,
have already said.
we need to hear your voice. I am sure it would have been beneficial. Mr. Cullen, I have the same comment. It would have been, yes, you're not an engineer, but neither am I. But I do live in the town of Southeast. I'm a human being that has lived perhaps much more than you. I do drive. I do look at the sky and the landscape. I have some idea of birds and trees. And it would have been good, whatever interested you, because there are many categories in the DEIS, God knows. I wish you had picked one of them and had said, well, look, I either disagree, agree, or I wish the developer or the applicant would have done something better. As to Councilwoman Hudak, I'm glad you read the traffic, so did I, but then I don't have to read the traffic since I'm in it, because I live in Hunters Glen, I traverse Fair Street, John Simpson Road, and I have the pleasure of being stuck on 312 innumerable times. And this evening, it was a wonderful, I didn't need Christmas lights because there were wonderful tail lights as far as the eye could see. Now, I just want to deal with one thing. If conditions are so horrendous, then this board, and I wrote it in my comments, it was incumbent upon this board to protect the life, welfare, and safety of the residents. And you should have gone to the DOT and demanded to have lights, widening, whatever needed to be done. As to costs, several years ago, Supervisor Griffin from Patterson made a grant to the Dormitory Authority. Because Mr. Kamada was not so willing to widen 312, Mr. Griffin made that grant. The grant was for $1.5 million. And if you go on 311, you will see the results of that grant. There was left lanes, right lanes, and a widening of 312 and other kinds of improvements. So I'm sure the residents, you would have no difficulty. You would have absolutely no difficulty getting residents to support this board before the DOT. As a matter of fact, in Poughkeepsie, I've been there. So if Mr. Griffin was able to obtain this grant, and he made it on the basis of safety, because they were to, I'm sure everyone knows, 311. So perhaps you might think of doing that without having Mr. Lepler or anyone else bear the expenses. The second thing I'd like to deal with, and I think we just protest a little bit too much. Yes, this development came before us in 2009. Any resemblance between the development that we see now and that which was presented by the applicant in 2009 is purely coincidental. The only thing that is the same is the hotel and the retail and the application for a zoning change. The reason why we're still here and the hotel would have been built, the restaurant would have been there, is because the applicant chose not to adhere to the Town of Southeast Comprehensive Plan of 2002, and I have a word to say about that, nor did he wish to adhere to the RC code, the Ridgeline code, the wetland permit, and the height of the hotel. But all of that, under the RC code, would have gone in a flash. But what we got, and as residents, if you, Mr. Cullen, have a problem going through thousands of pages or whatever, residents also. So we had to deal with constant iterations of this particular development. Was it 200 rooms? Was it 186,000 square feet, 200,000 square feet, and whatever, okay? So now we've gotten to the point that we have still the hotel, still not according to code, and we have, in addition, 143,000 square feet of retail. The only reason we have problems with this particular development is the retail. It is the retail that is bringing the cars. It is the retail that is causing so much difficulty. And the fact of the RC. I was here 2 years ago, a year ago, supporting the hotel and supporting the RC code. Samantha Jacobs was here supporting. You could look back on the minutes. So, Mr. Lepler, you could have had a shovel in the ground 2 years ago, 3 years ago. We would have had a hotel, and we would have had a little restaurant and whatever, okay? But such was not the case. So if there has been, quote unquote, delay, there has been almost a year. A year has almost elapsed since the time when the PDEIS came in. Almost a year. Hour do it? No. So let me just, now let me deal with statements made in this finding statement. And the reason why I know is because I have institutional memory. I'm one of the few people here that has institutional memory of what took place in 2002 and in part of 2001, because I heard and saw the supervisor and the residents of this community say, we have had one large retail center and that will be it. We cannot afford anything more, because we saw what was happening in terms of the traffic, in terms of the destruction of Brewster Highlands. Brewster Highlands is a fiction. It's a name only. It's a cartoon. And we saw the type of retail development. Plantings. Only recently, when I say recently, I mean in the past maybe 5 years, have you seen trees or anything? The place is a desert. It is a disgrace. Mr. LaPerche mentions the junkyard. Well, this is the worst of construction that I have ever seen. You cannot go from one area to another without getting into a car and without getting into an accident. and I think I've been there in the past 12 years 5 times, because I don't dare, okay? So now, on page 5, the proposed project, and I'm sorry to have, I think maybe I may have repeating what you're saying, but by the way, this is my copy, okay? It's marked. The proposed project has been reviewed for consistency with the 2002 plan. No way. It is absolutely diametrically opposed. It is the antithesis of what went on in those meetings, in residents' meetings. And what I am really appalled at, that out of all the emails, petitions, people calling, and mailings, that this board finds the findings quite all right and has approved it. I'm appalled, because you are our representatives. You were elected by us, plural, not one person, but us. And the 2014 comprehensive plan, I was present at both. It was specifically stated at the 2014 that there would be no discussion about this entire area. No discussion whatsoever. And yet, there it is. The town board finds overall the proposal is consistent with the goals and objectives? Absolutely not. Absolutely not with the 2002 plan. Absolutely not. I wrote in my comments. Absolutely not. On page and I marked it too, on page 9. The habitat, the entire habitat of more than 60%, the supervisor said so, will be lost to the project. And it's considered unavoidable. Is it really? Is it really? That we are so dismissive of our natural, of our natural landscape and of the natural resources and of the habitat. We are so dismissive and so cavalier with God's creatures. That's nice. Excuse me?
This is you'll have your turn.
Yes,
it's
it is.
not. It's public.
Yes.
Mr. It's comment.
Excuse me, I'm commenting.
Okay, hey, please, you'll have your opportunity. Continue, please.
Thank you. Thank you. You do what you want to do, and I'll do what I want
Okay,
to do.
hey, just.
Okay? I had another page that I had more than difficulty with in terms of on page 13, that the proposed project was substantially reduced in size. What was reduced in size was the hotel. That's what was reduced in size, not the retail portion. So I'm making the comments that I see in here that are supposedly, if you approve, then you are concurring with these particular comments.
But if you look at the PDEIS that you reviewed, the amount of retail was reduced by about 25%. It was reduced about
186 and went down to 143.
Yeah, I went from 186 to 143, thank you.
But it was reduced.
All right, but it's still retail, and it's large-scale retail. It's not small-scale, it's large-scale retail. It's not accessory retail like you have in rural commercial, right? You're still looking at the same thing, okay? These are kinds of things that we can play around. And I absolutely concur on the 3D model. We need. It's supposed to be there. We were supposed to have it. It's part of our code. Oh, by the way, in terms of politics, I don't know if anyone has. I don't know how to put it.
Well, do a better job than I did, evidently.
Well, I want to be tactful and put it correctly. You know, any real association with Mr. Lepler or any of his entities or anything like that.
If anyone had that, they would recuse themselves.
Okay. I'm glad you gave me that assurance.
Now, just to go on a couple of things.
Oh, by the way, I'm sorry, one more thing, I'm sorry. I found in the 2002 record, they do have a record, I had written a letter. It was 2002, and there it is with the Rural Commercial Code. This is when it was first started. So my institutional memory is in the volume of documents. So this goes, and I had said, I can't believe it, the necessity of reassessing this whole corridor, and that the Rural Commercial Code. By the way, John Lynch also wrote about the Rural Commercial Code, going way back to 2002. And I found something from the late supervisor, not of this town, but David Bruin, who was the county executive, I guess, at that time. And it was wonderful what he said about his vision and the land uses for the town. I don't know if he would be very happy to see what's going on.
Now, just to let you know that over the past 3 years that I've been here, on behalf of the board, we've written numerous letters to the state DOT about numerous areas of this town that we'd like to look at. Just recently, we were talking about the speed limit out here on Route 22. It goes from whatever, it drops down to 45, and it's 55. I mean, it's the Indy 500 now. It's much worse than it ever was because they did make an improvement. That's exactly what's going to happen with whatever. We mentioned, basically, there's had to be 10 to 15 different locations in the town that we pointed out to them that we'd like them to look at. Bottom line, they don't agree.
Well, you know what? I think that you have the applicant agreeing with you.
In what sense? Well, no, I mean,
Mr. Lepler,
no,
look, and he said the traffic is terrible. It's below and I'm going to fix it up. I'm going to put lights, and I'm going to put 2,000 additional cars. But anyway, so this is what I'm saying is this, is that you as the board, and you would have, I believe, I don't talk for everyone, God knows, but you would have much support from the residents of this community. If you went, we could have a transportation committee, whatever it is. I mean, look, if Michael Griffin was able to get one, and you can check it, was able to get $1.5 million from the Dormitory Authority. And you know the kinds of changes that have occurred on 311. The only thing that they didn't put in was that they were supposed to put in a light on each side.
Wasn't that done for Patterson Crossing?
Yes.
That's what she said.
Yeah,
Yes.
that was alleged.
But it was a
And
New
it's
York,
also a state road.
but it was a New York State grant. It was not the
but-
developer who paid for it.
Yeah, the developer was supposed to pay
Right.
for all of those,
correct.
whatever. But anyway, whatever happened,
But it's a state road, too.
it is a state road, so 312 is a state road. Is it not?
Try to.
And I would say this, in many respects, because it's almost like landlocked, 312, and because we've had additional development take place, Terrorist has not been without development. Never mind Brewster Highlands, we didn't even talk about all the development that has gone on in Terrorist. I counted at least 5 different. Either they were expanded or they came in. For example, Quest, the moving company, had an RC code. Guess what? They had to change, they came in and asked for rezoning to, I think it's OP2, if I'm not mistaken, because they had a warehouse. There were 5 different, plus Dykeman. So now you bring all of that in. You bring those those are cumulative impacts. Those are cumulative impacts, and we keep talking about Brewster Highlands. This is not Brewster Highlands. It's everything else that has gone on that has brought in more trucks, more vans, more cars on the road. So you add all of that on. And Mr. Cullen, you were a police officer. I am shocked that you didn't look at that traffic and say, Jesus, I got to say something about this traffic.
I did look at the traffic and so did AKRF's traffic engineer.
No.
The consensus, I don't want to prolong this, but
No, you may not. I'm here.
I don't want to prolong this, but the consensus of AKRF's traffic engineer is that, you know, with the improvements they're talking about, that will help traffic. The New York State Sheriff's Department, the New York Putnam County Sheriff's Department weighed in. They don't think this project is going to cause significant issues. The New York State Police weighed in. They said the same thing. The Brewster Fire Department weighed in officially, not the one volunteer who was speaking for himself. The hierarchy spoken. The only one, and you and I both requested them and they blew us off, I would like to hear from the Brewster schools, because a lot of people are talking about kids getting asthma and they're going to be on the buses till 12 noon. For whatever reason, they refused to weigh in. One school board member on his own did say that he's in favor of it, but officially there is no response from them. But law enforcement, fire department, traffic engineer all feel that these improvements will.
I did not see one letter. I did not see one letter from the agencies that you met, and I have no doubt that, you know, maybe it's just that I have not seen it.
Okay,
And they're not on the website, so I haven't seen it.
It's on the.
They're all
on the FEIS. Yeah.
Right.
And just, we talk a lot about the rural commercial zone, and this was a question that was asked by concerned citizens of Southeast, and it was, if the highway commercial zoning change is approved, the applicant can build what they like, which is considerably more than the current rural commercial zoning would allow. So the response was the development potential on the property under the current RZ zoning is comparable to the proposed HC zoning as amended. Approximately 283,000 square feet of floor area is possible under both the RC and the proposed HC1 zoning. The current RZ zoning limits the uses of the property, not the overall size of the development, which will remain largely the same under the proposed HC1 zoning. I mean, that's one of the things I took into consideration.
And, if you look, the size is not there. That is not an accurate statement. That is not an, I know, I saw that, but it is not an accurate statement, and common sense would lead you to question it. Okay, and I don't want to take this gentleman's time.
I just want to,
Don't do it. Email it.
I just want to say, and there are letters in here from the Donald Smith and from Sergeant Joseph Malgerio of the Brewster State Police.
I'm sorry?
There are letters in the final environmental impact statement from Sheriff Smith, who basically says we do not anticipate a significant impact to the Putnam County Sheriff Department in providing police protection attributed to Crossroads 312 project to be built on Route 312. Okay, that's from Sheriff Smith, and then from the Brewster Zone Sergeant, he basically says the same thing, and he sees no such issues. The Brewster Highland Shopping Center is similar size, and there's been no substantial problems that we have encountered. And the Brewster Fire Department has a letter in here too. I can't believe you guys all missed this. That from Chief Dave O'Hare of the Fire Department, who says our department has significant equipment at both the above stations and the main house to handle the proposed Crossroads 312 project and all of the commercial development in that area within the town itself. So those three agencies all weighed in, and, you know, I'm going with their professional recommendations.
I would like to thank the entire board for going through the process of this environmental impact statement. And I have to tell you that I take, I'm personally bothered by the idea that Ms. Finizzi can come up here and chastise those three board members that don't agree with her. Yet she says nothing about the other two board members. I thank you all for doing the job that you're doing, and I wouldn't single out whether you're on my side or not. I think you all did a great job.
Thank you.
Peter, I'd like to thank you, but I will take a little stroll down memory lane because I used to get up continually to chastise former supervisors and former board members. So I really thank you for the compliment, and I thank this board for its civility to each other. But I think all of our, and I don't like it. I mean, I'd rather have, you know, I'd rather hear the positives, but I think it's within every resident's right to get up and criticize who they want, when they want. Often it's me, but that's okay. That's one reason we run for office and something we have to bear, so.
But like I said, I just wanted to thank you all. You all did a
Well,
great job, whether or not it was on my side or not.
Right, I really appreciate that, thank you.
And I have no problem with criticism either, but it's when it's suggested that some of us aren't doing our homework or aren't reading things and just washing our hands of it, I do resent that, because I spent many a Saturday and Sunday and evenings going through all these books, and it's, you know, and I'm not complaining, and it's been a learning experience for me. I learned a lot. This is not something I professionally deal with or ever dealt with, but we all did our homework.
And I would just want to say one thing to Tony's comment before about the idea that he doesn't think you should be the lead agency on these large developments. The thing is, though, is you guys are elected. And so the people of this town decided that you were the people that should determine how this town is run and how this town should look. So I think your being the lead agency on this certainly is the right thing. And any large, you know, construction project like this, I believe you should still be the lead agency.
Well, we're going to discuss it, and if the board feels that way, but we do have professionals that have 7-year terms, and politics is not involved, and that's why they made them 7-year terms. So if another board comes in, like tonight we made an appointment to the board, I think it was almost unanimous, it was close to unanimous on all the appointments, and that's the way things work. So, thank you.
My name is Ricky Furman, and I'd just like to comment on what went on tonight. And I do appreciate, because the last meeting I said the process would go on and on and on, and then we would vote whether there would be a zoning change or not a zoning change. I do appreciate the fact that the line in the sand is drawn for this project on January 22nd, when the voting or the public hearing will go on, whether the zoning will be changed or not be changed. And I think when we look at the zoning change, in my opinion, as I've stated it a lot, I don't think there should be any zoning changes. But I think you have to look at it only as it reflects to the town. I think when you look at it at the state or the county or the developer, yes, there's a real positive effect if the zoning change is made and the development is built. But the key to this whole thing is, once the zoning change is made, that this development will go on, maybe tweaked a little, just like it is. And it is my opinion that the zoning change, that no zoning change, because a lot of work went into determining what should be zoned one way and what should be zoned another way. And I think you have to look at it with your heart as it pertains to the citizens of the town of Southeast, because that's who you were elected to become town members. And I really believe that when you look at it and when you go through the whole thing, you will take a different look, as if you were looking at it for the county, for the state, or the developer itself. But I do appreciate the fact that we're going to come to that conclusion and have our say on the 22nd of January, because to have it at the end is meaningless. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. Anyone else from the public? Seeing none, town board members?
No?
Well, it's Christmas. Some of
Yeah,
these-
I'd like to wish everyone
To say Merry Christmas.
Happy Hanukkah, Merry
Happy
Christmas, and Happy New Year.
Happy holidays,
I'm the-
healthy
I'm the
New
original
Year.
Scrooge, so no one on here for me.
And not to ruin that spirit, but just another comment that, you know, I would love Putnam County to share sales tax with us. They don't. It's not going to happen, as Tony said, in his lifetime.
It almost
But with
be
that
shut down.
said, we are also Putnam County residents. So we do get a benefit from them keeping the sales tax, and that we get lower property taxes. I don't agree with it. I want to share it, but people are making it sound like it goes to something that doesn't benefit us.
Well, we
And
can-
Bruce Walker did, you know, I don't know if his numbers are correct, but he said that Putnam County provides more services to the town than we financially give to the county. We get all our police services from Putnam County. We don't have a town police department. So I just wanted, it's not something that just bothered me.
Happy holidays all,
Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah.
You have to make a,
Edwin?
I'll make a motion, we close tonight's meeting.
The next meeting?
tonight.
Second? All in favor?
Please, the
Aye.
next meeting. I'm like, what?